What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. I'm your host, Al the Postmaster Morrow, and today I have a gear review on the Raja RBGV1 Muay Thai training gloves. Alright folks, as always, I'm incredibly excited to bring you yet another gear review, as today we are going to be reviewing a modern day classic in the world of Muay Thai training gloves. Today I have the Raja Boxing RBGV1 Muay Thai training gloves. I'm really excited for this review because this is the fourth glove out of the four gloves that I unboxed back in May. And those four Muay Thai training gloves were basically what most people voted in the comments as classics that are outside of your norm as far as like Fairtex Twins and say like Top King brands like that. These are more of your niche Muay Thai training gloves. So I reviewed the Windy training gloves, My, Sandy, and now Raja. And most of those gloves I mentioned that you don't see a whole lot of them in the United States. I mentioned in Windy, you saw the combat sports versions a lot in the United States, but not really the Thai versions. Although the combat sports ones are made in Thailand, but still, I've never trained with anyone that had My in the States. I've seen very few Sandys, but Raja is the one brand in the States I've seen more of for some reason. A few guys that I know that would travel to Thailand once a year or something like that usually came back with Raja. Some of them had Raja shorts on. In general, I've trained with a lot of people that have actually had Raja boxing gloves on, and then one of my first MMA teammates actually had this old pair of brown Raja boxing gloves, and he said he liked them the most because they fit his hand for a bigger guy. They were softer for his sparring partners, and he said that they were safer than most any glove that he had tried. So when I got these, I was really excited to finally give them a shot because I've known about Raja for as long as I've been in MMA, which I was 14, I'm 28 now, so someone do the math because I cannot crunch numbers that quick. Don't make fun of me. But anyway, Raja's the last of the four gloves that I unboxed all those months ago. I have a lot of time into these gloves. I really enjoyed them, and I see why a lot of people really like Raja as a brand in general. And that's the cool part about these gloves. I get to learn a lot more about just cultures and also like the respect that certain cultures can have for certain brands. Like I didn't know in Thailand, Raja is kind of revered for their quality assurance practices, and I had no idea about that. Raja started in 1998, so they're almost 30 years old, and I know that because I'll be 30 next year, and I was born in 1997, and I feel so old saying that sentence, but I'm 28 still, won't be 29 till August, and I will be riding out my 20s in the best ways possible. But regardless, they started in 1998. I cannot pronounce the lady's name, but she was a stockbroker in Thailand that loved Muay Thai, and she frequently visited the Raja Stadium. I can't really say the word so well. I will try it for your viewing pleasure. Raja Verdurm Stadium, which is one of the most popular stadiums. I know there's Lumpini Stadium, and I don't know the other one. I think there's 3 total. But Raja's a very world-famous Thai stadium. Some of the best champions in Muay Thai have always competed there, and she wanted to name it after that stadium that she used to go to all the time, called it Raja. The other thing that I read a couple articles on is apparently, again, their quality assurance practices is absolutely out of this world, and they only source things from Thailand. Now, most brands do that, but in this case, they even wrote in one of the articles that I saw that the foams have to be from Thailand and made in Thailand, the Velcro, the materials, the stitching, the leather, everything has to be sourced from the country of Thailand, and they have to be up to their standards. If they're not, they will send materials back out to wherever they got it from in Thailand and request something better. So they have very high practices, and most of the things that you see online about Raja is that they are built to last, very good quality, very good durability, which is always a good sign when it comes to Thai gloves. Although most Thai-made brands that I come across have very good equipment. Now, obviously, Raja is not as famous as some other brands I mentioned like Fairtex, you know, Twin Special, Top King, you know, just Yo Cow is another one I'm just looking off to my shelf there. But they are still respected amongst Thailand. You know, people still call them King because obviously Raja stands for King in Thai. And it's still a really well-respected brand. You can actually see, if you type in like local Thai fights on YouTube, you can see some guys using Raja fight gloves in like their local events, which I still think is pretty cool. So in general, Raja is still very well respected for their quality and overall a very respected brand, especially in Thailand. But again, in the States, not necessarily as readily available and not as popular as some of your major brands. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into the actual review and talk about the exact model I have for you today. Today I have the 16-ounce red hook and loop training gloves. You can get them in a couple different sizes that I see on their website. You can get them from 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16 ounces. So there are a lot of sizes to pick from. The only thing I'll say is online on their website's a little weird to negotiate, to navigate rather. Negotiate the website. No, navigate the website. And on top of it, it looks like when you buy it, it says in one, and it's like $80 for just one glove, which is really weird. So I don't know how accurate that is. So there's that. And then on top of it, the pricing changes depending on what size you're going to get. So I think like 6 through 10 was like 60 something bucks. And then something after that was 80. But again, once you factor in the shipping from Thailand, everything like that, I do think that they do make some gloves to order. I'm not too sure. It's going to take a little bit longer from what I've seen, especially on some forums. It takes a while for Raja to get here. I got these from the Fighters Boutique, so they were available in the 3-core sizes, which is very common for third-party retailers because 12, 14, and 16 ounces in the United States are the 3 most common sizes. Again, why we call it the Core 3. But in this case, I got them in the 16 ounces from the Fighters Boutique. It only took them about a week and a half, 2 weeks for them to get here because I do believe that they ship from the U.S. Of course, they do get it directly from the Thai factory. But at the end of the day, I got them in the 16-ounce size. They come in a bunch of different colors and designs. The only thing I can say is be careful because there are some gloves that are not the RBGV1 that look similar, that are not made out of the same materials, that go for much less on different websites like Muay Wholesale. So make sure it says RBGV1. There are several colors like your black, yellow, green. They have different shades of red, but they also have a fancy model. They have a vintage model. They have a bunch of different models of the RBGV1. Again, if you go on a website like Muay Wholesale, that is actually a completely different glove. So just be careful. If you want the glove I'm reviewing now, just look for those numbers, and most websites will see the numbers and letters RBGV1. If you want them in lace-up closure, technically it wouldn't be the RBGV1 because the V wouldn't be in there. It would just be the, it would be like RBL, I think is the way it would work, or RBGL is the way it would be said, which would be laces. And yes, they do have it available in lace-ups, but I have not seen a whole lot of other retailers sell them in lace-ups other than Raja's direct website. So you do have that option there in a bunch of different colors and designs. But again, for your reference, I got them in the 16-ounce weight. I got them in the hook and loop closure and in the classic red coloration. When we go ahead and talk about the look of the glove itself, as you can see here, we have that classic Raja logo, which of course, Raja meaning king, you got to have the crown there on the top. And so you have the white jewel in the center, really cool jewels on the side as well. And you have the black logo, of course, but you have white borders to give it that nice pop. At the top, it says, I want to say it says professional boxing gear, and then that's in gold with the black bordering and the white background. You got the Raja right there, which also has the white bordering, which is nice, with the black lettering though. And then you see it says boxing with stars, and then it says the best one in the ring in gold. And it reflects really well off the light, so that gold reflects. So it's actually a really nice reflective material. The logo overall looks really awesome. You can see the A comes off there a little bit to have it that breakout like design. Has a really nice pop and flare to it. The rest of the glove is that really awesome, almost like a candied apple red, and it looks absolutely awesome with the light. Red's one of my favorite colors to work with on the channel just because the camera catches it so nicely. Reflects the light very very well compared to some other Thai gloves where it, you know, might eat the light a bit or bounce off of it. This looks really nice and reflective. And then on top of it, you can see here the thumb is that red, and you have a webbed thumb, which is a really nice modern design, and you have that also in red. And unlike a lot of other Thai gloves or gloves in general, the stitching matches the actual leather color, which is nice. So it's all red stitching, and it blends in perfectly with the rest of the glove. So that's what you got going on there. You got some breathe holes in the center to give it that nice look too. And then when we go ahead and come to the palm, I'll turn this other one so I can read it. It says RJB with a crown at the top, handmade quality, made in Thailand. And I will come a little closer just so you can see that there, right there. And that's a gold shield, almost like a crest, showing you where this was made and everything as well. And then you can come over to the side and you can actually feel this. It's actually stamped on there almost. It says 16 ounces, just to prove that I got a 16-ounce glove for you guys. And then when we come over here to the actual cuff, the wrist cuff has a cloth patch like a lot of other gloves do. And of course, like most other Thai gloves, it looks different from the actual logo on the front, which is nice. You can see here, it's a black background. You got the crown over the trademark, which is pretty cool. And you can see the Rajas in white with red bordering. And then it says boxing with some red stars on the side. It says www.rajaboxing.com. And you also have a red, again, border going across the entirety of the actual strap itself, which is really cool. Then on top of it, what I like about it is, of course, the Velcro itself is black, as most gloves are. You can see here the inside is black, the outside is black, but you have a little piece of black leather there, which tells me that the underneath up part of this is black. So it gives you that nice little stripe, and you can kind of see that on this other glove here too, just barely, but it's there. When we go ahead and open the glove too, there's a little logo here. It says like AJB Boxing on it, which I don't know if that's like the manufacturer, because some Thai brands, if that will focus, I don't know why that's not focusing. Try that again. There we go. Nope, still not focusing. There we go. Okay, that little logo there, which I do know some Thai manufacturers like have a company that like manufactures their gloves, and that might be it. But in this case, I think it's just maybe a Thai logo. I don't really know what that could be. And then there's a stamp on the inside. I'll try and get that to focus. It says Raja right there. And then on the other side, it says made in Thailand, leather composition. Then the rest of the interior lining is black. So there's a lot of little nuances to this glove as far as the actual look goes, but other than that, like all the little tiny like stamps and stuff that it's telling you, it's just basically a red Muay Thai glove, and that's always good for me. Basic always wins. And then when we come over to the actual build of the glove and we talk about the outer shell, starting off with that, really, really nice thick cowhide leather. It is a top grain, which basically means, think about this, full grain, best material that you can get. It's the hide right off the animal. Top grain is they just shave the imperfections off that hide, so it's easier and more uniform to work with. But you can still see the natural grain marks, which are those little lines, not the creases, but the little lines in the leather itself. And the one thing about this leather, compared to a lot of other Thai gloves, super soft. For sure, the softest Thai leather I've tried. I'd say it's Thai's mine's the softest Muay Thai glove I've tried, but this is the softest leather out of any Thai glove I've tried, and it's very, very thick compared to almost every other Thai glove I can think of. Super thick leather on the top, which makes it very easy to stitch and run through, which is always nice. Very nice feeling, very soft and supple, very uniform, breaks in nicely. It comes out of the box pretty soft, but it gets even softer, which is nice. And it also has a natural scent to it. And what I mean by that is, unlike most leather that has like that chromium salt, because that's the tanning process that most boxing gloves go through. Some of them use oil tanning or vegetable tanning. In this case, you have a chromium salt tanning with most mass-produced gloves. It's just the quickest way. It's still pretty safe in general, but this actually smells more like a barnyard. It smells like the animal while it was in the farm, basically, before it got butchered and made into the leather and all those different things. Not to be so graphic, but it has that weird farm scent to it, which I've had some leather, especially United States leather, that has that scent to it. And it doesn't have that same sharp, dry Thai scent to it. It has like a farm scent to it, which isn't a bad thing. But I really like how that smells. And again, the leather out of a lot of Thai gloves feels amazing. and this is for sure one of the better leathers that I felt on a Thai glove. So it's a really nice top grain cowhide leather. Talked about the padding, talked about the leather enough. Let's go into the padding. Just like a lot of other Thai gloves that you get on the market, you have a 3-layered foam mold, and it is a separate layer from the top and bottom of the glove. So you have the wrist cup, which is always independent in almost every Thai glove, independent from the top. So they're 2 separate parts, and the padding up top is 3 layers of padding. And most Thai gloves will have a base layer of EVA foam to keep the glove in a shape and to protect your knuckles. Then you'll have a mid layer of latex and a top layer of a high density open cell foam to breathe. And you can even hear the breathing in this glove too. The air popping out and coming back. The only thing is about this glove, I'd say that the padding is definitely softer than most Thai gloves that you're going to try. Some Thai gloves, the EVA foam at the base, which is a closed cell foam most of the time, is very stiff. It's why they use it in bag gloves a lot. But if you put it at the base layer, it's safe to hit someone with, and it's also good to protect your knuckles and again, keep the glove in a nice shape. But with Raja padding, it's very soft and squishy, very protective, and I definitely put it in that pillow category. It feels very similar to a Yokow style padding, only I'd say it's a bit more dense than that, and it's not quite as rounded as say a Yokow. Yokow is very overly pronounced and rounded. This is a little bit flatter, but still has a nice rounded raised edge to the actual padding itself. And although it's not quite as thick as some other paddings that you've seen, it feels even denser. I'd say it's a nice medium foam on the inside, and then at the top it's a lot denser, but it's still very soft on the hand. And when you go and cradle this and push this in, you can see how the foam actually creases around the center of the knuckles here. So what that does is when you punch, it like pulls back this way, and it's hugging your knuckles in this fashion. So this is the padding, this is your knuckles, boom, and it hugs it like this to keep it in a nice spot. So it's a very dense and thick feeling foam for not being so thick in general. And you don't really feel the hard EVA foam like you do in a lot of other Thai gloves. This actually feels pretty soft even on the base layer. And if you want to feel what the EVA foam feels like, feel the inside of the thumb or the very bottom of the padding. That's the 3-layer foam mold that you got going on there. And that foam mold is the whole top part of the glove. So the thumb, the tips of the fingers, the knuckles, the back of the hand, that's all that 3-layered mold foam. And you most likely, like a lot of other Thai gloves, have more of a pocket on the inside of the knuckles itself with a bit more of that thicker foam to protect your knuckles and also protect the target that you're hitting. So in general, really nice 3-layered foam padding. Feels more protective than most Thai gloves I've tried, and I would definitely categorize it as a pillow puncher because of that. When we go ahead and talk about the thumb positioning, just like a lot of other Thai gloves, it's on the outside, and of course you want that for good solid clinch. So most Western style boxing gloves kind of tuck it a bit more. This is more on the outside because you want to be able to open and grab a lot easier. And the one thing that's nice about this, you have the web thumb attachment, which is a really nice touch. For me, it makes it a nice natural fist. And on top of it, the thumb is flexible enough to come out a bit more, but it doesn't exceed past the knuckles at all. It tucks behind the knuckles really well still. So it makes one of the more natural fists I've tried in a Thai glove while having that nice natural opening to get a nice solid clinch. And it, again, tucks right behind the knuckles in a really good feel. And it's flexible enough to be able to move and get your clinch naturally as well. So I do like that it has that nice web thumb attachment. When we talk about the wrist itself, just like a lot of other Thai gloves, very short wrist, but actually it protects the wrist very well because the wrist strap actually covers the whole top part of the glove, which is the top part of the wrist compartment of the glove, I should say. Then on top of it, you have some really nice soft foam on the back of the hand to cradle the back of your hand and wrist and hug it in that way. And the wrist compartment, and I'll open it like that, just like every other Thai glove, will have some stiff EVA foam at the back, so it makes that nice circle, so it hugs to your wrist a lot more. And once it forms to your fist a little bit better, it'll naturally be a more comfortable and protective fit. But even for this EVA foam in the wrist, although it's stiffer than any other foam in the glove, it's not quite as stiff as some other gloves out there. So in general, you have a really soft, broken-in glove. And you also have a nice wrist strap that's relatively thick and that cinches up to your wrist perfectly, and it goes into a nice anatomical shape. So when you have it here and you strap it, it doesn't strap to top of the hand. It doesn't strap down here. It straps right on the actual wrist bone, keeping it in a nice spot, also allowing you mobility for your clinch, and you'll see that in a second. Going to the palm of the glove, the grip bar is actually a little bit firmer than the padding itself, but it's still a relatively soft grip bar if that's ever what you need. And the piping on the inside of the palm is also very soft as well. It doesn't pinch on that inside part of your fingers here that I hate. I call it the pistol grips. I hate when thumb piping is too hard because it will wear out that part of the pressure point. It's not fun. And then as you can see here, little tiny piece of padding, and I noticed that with a lot of the other gloves I've reviewed in this series. A little bit of padding here, not nearly enough to really do much in block kicks or anything like a lot of other Thai gloves do nowadays, but still enough to kind of counterbalance the weight on this side and also cinch up to the side of your hand, making it a little bit more natural. So in general, you got really nice soft leather in the inside. You do have the breathe holes there to let the glove ventilate a little bit. Does it change much? No, but still enough. And then you have really soft piping here as well, just like you would with a thumb, and double line stitching throughout the entirety of the glove. When we go ahead and talk about the lining of the glove, just like virtually every single Thai glove, you're going to have that leather feeling. I call it leatherette because sometimes it's real leather, sometimes it's not. In this case, it feels synthetic compared to the other parts of the glove, but still really nice synthetic leather feel. Nice and drying, also fits onto the back of your wrist a lot better. The rest of it is just your basic stretched nylon on the inside, and it's very moisture wicking, as most Thai glove linings are going to be, because obviously Thailand's a very hot and humid country. You want things to air out a lot easier. When we try the glove on, it fits really comfortably. It is one of the more comfortable Thai gloves I've tried on, again for the first time, and then breaking the glove in felt really, really comfortable. I can't feel the outline of my knuckles so much. I can like feel where they are, but I can't feel them, if that makes any sense. And again, although it's rounded a little bit towards the top, it has a bit more of a flat curvature, but because of that soft foam, I don't feel anything here. So I can hammer the back of my hand. I don't feel that. I can hammer the side of my thumb, even with my elbow. I don't feel that. So it's a very soft foam that you got going on here. And again, it breaks in very well, so I'm able to open and close to get a nice solid clinch. Now, when I go ahead and strap this, you can see again, it cinches up to this part of my wrist really well. So it really stops my wrist from going down so far, unless I'm using it for clinch work. So obviously if I grab and clinch down, I wanted to do this, but my wrist isn't going back whatsoever. I'm really trying to do this right now, by the way. I can't at all. So it really braces the wrist well. And even when I punch, it doesn't move down at all. It doesn't want to move. It keeps it in a nice natural spot. And that padding on the back, again, really hugs the back of my wrist and keeps it in one solid position. That natural thumb position is awesome too. And like I said, tucks right behind the knuckles in a perfect way. But if I want to open for a clinch, it's that easy. The clinch is awesome in this glove. I get awesome control. If it's on the wrist, back of the arm, head, top of the head, neck, whatever it is, I get really solid clinch when it comes to this glove. And there's enough room on the inside of the hand compartment where I'm able to wrap my hands up big if I needed to. But again, for me, I usually either don't train with wraps at all or just a light wrap and I'm good to go. Great for bag work, great for pads, really protective of the knuckles and the wrist. The lining on the inside can be a little baggy towards the tips of the fingers, but it's not the worst I've ever experienced, and it's very minimal. So that doesn't really bother me. Overall, it's a very comfortable fit. Tons of room if you have bigger hands for a 16-ounce Thai glove, and overall really nicely made so far. And that's why I use this glove a ton when I was in my last fight from the last couple of weeks. They were safe for my partner, safe for me. Overall soft, very protective, safe glove. So with that said, let's go ahead and go into the bag work, and then we'll come back with my final thoughts. When it comes to hitting the bags with these gloves, for one, they have really great protective qualities. The foam in the glove is super pillow-like and soft, and they still have a pretty nice crack to it too. So it's not as if you can't get a lot of punches off and get good feedback. I wouldn't give them that puncher's feel, but they definitely have a nice soft sink-in feel into the padding itself, and it really feels like your hand's getting hugged throughout the entirety of the back of the hand, the thumb, and everything. It's just a really comfortable fit and feel. The wrist support is absolutely awesome as well. Overall, great for bags and pads, awesome on sparring. I like how soft these gloves are too. They're very safe, not just for your hands, but overall for everyone that you're going to work with. So for me, A+. So for me, why I call these a modern Muay Thai classic is because the logo, although it has a basic oval, has the added crown towards the top. And for me, the red just kind of shines a lot more than some other brands do. Most Muay Thai brands kind of have that classic red shape that kind of eats the light a bit. This reflects and looks like an awesome display piece. Red never goes wrong in boxing gloves, and so far, the Raja boxing gloves look absolutely awesome. All right, folks, so my final verdict here for the Raja Boxing RBGV1 Muay Thai training gloves is, out of all 4 gloves I unboxed back in May, I'd say this is probably the most well-rounded glove that would work for everybody. And what I mean by that is it crosses all the boxes. It's safe to use, it's safe for your partners, they're durable, they're very high quality, and again, I would recommend these gloves to anyone trying a new Muay Thai brand. I think compared to the Windies I reviewed, they're much more protected than those, and I think they work for all sports. I think they might not be as big as like the Sandys that I reviewed, and they're definitely not quite as soft as a Muay glove, and they don't have the protruding thumb. So I think out of the 4 I unboxed, I think these would be the best for people to try, and these would be the ones I would recommend more than any of them out of the 4, again, because they fit that classic Thai glove with some really good features. But with every other glove, like I said, we're going to talk about the things I love about the glove, talk about some things I changed, and then we'll go over my actual rating of the glove. First and foremost, again, one thing that I noticed about Raja and all the reviews, very high quality, and they're built to last. I see a lot of people that had like pictures on forums and stuff that had them for over 3 or 4 years, and they were still lasting really well. So as far as the price for what you get, like $144 is what I bought these for, plus shipping. At the end of the day, you're coming to $160. That's around the same as you're going to spend for most really well professionally made gloves. And at the end of the day, it's done wonders for me. I've beat these gloves up, especially for the last, I'd say, 3 weeks of my last fight camp. These were on my hands whenever I sparred because they were very, very safe for me and my partners, and I needed my partners around. And they did a really good job of doing everything, whether it be clinch, grappling in these for big level MMA sparring, striking in these. It kept me safe. They were in great shape, and when I took them out of the box for the first time, it did not take very long for me to break them in. It took them up most to 2 to 3 rounds to feel like they've been on my hand for a while. So you have a really nice break-in feel of these gloves. Overall, it's very soft and nice, high-quality leather on the outside, so it feels really good in that way. They do have some semi-leather, that they'll call it, models on their website that you can look into as well, though I do not know if they have the RBGV1 in a microfiber outer shell or a semi-leather outer shell. So that's something that I should have looked into a bit more, but I do know that the leather version's on the website, and you can get it from some other retailers as well. So that's one thing I like about the glove. I guess the only nitpick as far as the quality goes, I mean, the end of the stitching here has popped out slightly, which if you can even see that on the camera, then good for you. But I mean, that's so many gloves that I've spent way more money on have had much worse to them as well, you know. I'm not going to nitpick just a tiny little stitch at the end. That's very common. So overall, the quality is great. Very protective of the knuckles, very protective of the wrist, very safe glove, which is always something that I emphasize to people, especially when you're looking into a professional model glove. You want to make sure that they are keeping your hands in good shape for your fight camps, right? So if you're in a very deep fight camp and you notice you have brittle hands, wrap your hands up. There's tons of room on the inside of this. Wrap your hands up good, put your hands in here, and use them is the way I would word them. I would safely recommend these to people, and I think for a Thai glove, they have better wrist support than a lot of other Thai gloves I've tried. I'd say the wrist support is right there with some of the best, like Yokkao, or even the Muay wrist support I mentioned the other day was really, really good. But for me, the wrist support in this glove is awesome, and it's actually a pretty well-balanced Thai glove. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more top-heavy, simply because all the padding's at the top, but compared to some other Thai gloves, I put my hand in the center, and sure, it wants to go that way a little bit more, but compared to some other ones, I mean, it's not too bad. Eventually, it's going to fall over, but the balancing on this glove was really surprising, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. So that was always good about this glove, is that it's really well balanced, and you don't feel like it's just super heavy. So that's one thing about it. So again, protects the knuckles well, great wrist support, comfortable hand compartment, dries out quickly, easy to clean, and it's very high quality, which is always a good thing. The shelf life, I would say easily 2 to 3 years of beating these gloves up on a daily basis. So long, I always emphasize this, so long as you take care of them. That's up to you at the end of the day. Don't come back to me in a year and say, oh, they already fell apart, but I never cleaned them and took them out. You know, I get that comment once or twice. It's like, that's your fault, unfortunately. But when it comes to these gloves, overall, as far as the safety aspects and how they protect you, your sparring partners, and how they're going to perform, for 140 bucks, I think that's fair. But that's where we go into the things that I would change about the glove. Compared to some other brands out there, 140 bucks is a little bit more, and I think it's because they don't have the same marketing presence, and they are a little bit harder to get a hold of, which will be annoying for some. Like I said, on their website, it looks like, you know, it literally says you can buy one glove at a time or something like that, so you might be buying the left or the right. It's just confusing to navigate, and if it's confusing for me, it could be confusing for others, though sometimes I get confused easily. That's why I go through third-party retailers a lot for Thai equipment, because I can call them, ask questions of who they deal with and stuff, and again, the Fighters Boutique deals directly with Raja, so I trust them wholeheartedly, and that's where I got these from. And I was able to ask a lot of questions about the brand and how knowledgeable they are about that. More than 95% of the time, the person you're calling that owns a fight retail shop knows the ins and outs of their product better than I do. So that's the one thing I always tell you to do. So call them, ask questions, ask some other third-party retailers if you want the RBGV1, okay? But again, it's a little bit harder to get a hold of, and you might spend a little bit more, especially if it's shipping from Thailand. So if you're going to buy a pair of gloves on their website that says 86 bucks, prepare to pay about $40 in shipping and wait upwards of 3 weeks to a month. So that's the other thing that you got to wait for when it comes to gloves like these. And there are some gloves that take a long time, but are you going to spend that, or are you going to spend a pair of Rev Gears that go for about the same that will be at your house in 3 days in the States? So it's kind of that question that you begin to ask yourself. So the competitive market for 140 bucks is pretty high up there for these gloves, especially if they're not as easily accessible for some. That does deter some buyers that would really like to try these. So for me, if you put them at like that 120 price point, I think that is a great price point, and I would hope it'd be a little bit more accessible in the States. But again, for me, I've only seen a handful of retailers in the States that actually sell them. Otherwise, you gotta look elsewhere. And again, even Nakamura Wholesale has Raja stuff on it, but it's not these gloves. It's a completely different model, and they are made from different materials from what I've read and seen. I will get those down the line and review them, though. But when it comes to these gloves, as far as some of the other things I would take away from it, I mean, the lining does bunch up a little bit towards the tips of the fingers, but a lot of gloves do. But that's still somewhat annoying. My hands do not creep out of these like a lot of other Thai gloves, so that's actually a plus. But the baggy, or the lining towards the tips of the fingers, does get a little baggy, and that can just be a touch annoying. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to complain about. They're overall a really safe glove. They get the job done, and they check all my boxes, which is always good. And I always preach comfort, safety for you and your training partners. Longevity is a big one. Those are like my big three. And then, of course, there's always, does it fit your budget? And that's the one area that maybe you might wind up looking for a different glove that does virtually the same thing, or a little bit better in some areas, that will be readily available to you. So with that said, what would my rating of this glove be? Similar to a lot of the other gloves I mentioned, I would definitely put this at like a solid 8 out of 10 in the A tier, if not a 9 out of 10 in the A tier. I think this is a great glove. And I would recommend it to virtually anyone trying Muay Thai equipment, especially if you have the patience to wait, if it's coming from Thailand, if you want to buy it from the website. Again, their website is kind of hard to navigate. You know, it's very laggy, it's very slow, it looks outdated, but they do have a lot of options for this glove as far as sizes go and weight. So it goes all the way from 6 ounces all the way up to 16. So you have versatility. I think they're great for virtually all kickboxing sports. So I think Muay Thai, kickboxing and MMA is great. I don't know if a regular boxer would like to use these because the wrist cuff is short, although this is one of the more protective Thai gloves that I've ever tried. They protect the knuckles very well. They protect the wrist very well. They're very friendly for the hands. So if you do have brittle hands and you enjoy Muay Thai, I would strongly suggest looking into these gloves. That's just my opinion on it. I think compared to a lot of other Thai gloves I've tried, I think it's right on par with the Rev Gears I reviewed recently. I think it's on par with Twins. I think it's on par with Yokow and Combat Corner gloves. I think this is some very awesome padded gloves if you're looking for something to protect your hands, your sparring partners, and of course the durability and longevity for Raja. Like I said, there was a bunch of forums and stuff that I read. A lot of people use and stick to Raja because of their durability, which is always good. Again, really the biggest drawback for me, I just wish they were a bit more available, and I wish they were just a touch cheaper if I was going to wait that long for them, because at the end of the day, if you're going to wind up spending that much, why wouldn't you spend it on something that will be just as good, if not a little bit better, that will come to your house a lot sooner? And of course, in the USA, a lot of people are not going to have the patience for that. They want their stuff now. So if you want to be patient, deal with what you got for a bit, wait a couple weeks, go for it. Other than that, those are really my only complaints about the glove. It is a very awesome glove. I won't put it in that S tier simply because there's just not enough of them out there and easy enough to get here. And I do tend to review it for that reason. And I don't even know how hard it would be to get these in other countries as well. So that's the other thing you got to look out for. But for me, in general, I think it is a great option. Borderline S tier, I'd say it's up there. It is borderline an excellent glove for me, but there are just some things that I say make it inaccessible to people for it to be such an excellent glove. That's my big gripe with it. But of course, as always, if I missed anything, comment below and let me know what you thought about this review. And I hope I answered all of your questions about these gloves. And of course, if you have any more, like I just said, comment. Follow me on my social media pages, message me on there. A lot of people have been emailing me recently, so go for it and do that too. And on top of it, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and hit the bell for notifications for reviews just like these. And of course, share this with your friends if they're looking for some new boxing gloves, Muay Thai gloves, or training equipment. I'm your guy. I'm always here. And of course, let me know what you want to see reviewed next on the channel. I was really happy to finally get all these classic Muay Thai gloves out of the way. I got some other Muay Thai gloves coming up that weren't in the unboxing video all those months ago, but I'm very excited to continue on with getting more Thai brands. So please let me know some more Thai brands. I still got Top King to do, Primo, and a few other ones that I'm thinking about out there. Like there's K, there's King, there's a bunch of different ones I gotta look into. But guys, with that said, thank you so much for choosing your source of combat sports, The Combat Corporation. I've been your host, Al the Postmaster Marlowe, and as always, I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everybody.